to present. Got it. Just want to make sure I can share my screen. And can everyone see my screen right now?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. All right, today's presentation, a day in the life of an RTE / Agile coach, mainly RTE. So my role is RTE / Agile coach. I've been in this role for a little over 2 months now. Now RTE is pretty much the next level up from a Scrum Master. It's a servant leader, just like a Scrum Master, and a coach for the release train engineer. Now, some of you all know, some of you don't, but a release train engineer, Agile release train is usually comprised of 5 to 12 teams, Scrum teams. As we know, the Scrum teams, 10 people or less. And usually if it's multiple trains, it's called a solutions train engineer. So that's the next level up. But nonetheless, we're concentrating on the release train engineer who manages all the Scrum Masters and all the trains. All right. Primary responsibilities for myself. I manage and optimize the flow, the flow of value through the art, which is the Agile release train. So making sure there are no bottlenecks, no dependencies from team to team on one another. While the Scrum Master, as we know, they make sure there are no impediments on the team's level. Also, is the RTE, establish and communicate annual calendar invites, iterations, and program increments. Essentially, leadership from the director of IT to all of the architects, program managers, so on and so forth. Leadership, they get busy. With that being said, as the release train engineer, we want to make sure we plan our PI planning and any events surrounding PI. We want to plan it in advance. So usually anywhere between 6 months, sometimes a year out, you have your PI planning for the whole year, and it's usually quarterly. So PI planning happens once every 3 months, so 4 times a year. And the PI planning essentially is it's a plan for the next 3 months. So it's the feature level or the deliverables level of planning, and your user stories are underneath the deliverable level, the future level. And that's, as I mentioned, that's what we plan for during the PI planning. So prime example, our next PI planning is in September, but we're planning for work from September all the way until January. So we plan for the future. Also, as an RT, we facilitate PI planning events and other events associated with PI. For example, any type of vision boards, roadmap, pre-PI planning. So sometimes you may do a run-through PI planning before the actual PI planning, and post-PI planning, which is usually a sprint for inspection and adaptation. We assist with tracking and execution of features and capabilities. As mentioned, this is on a higher level, on the features level, and usually for a PI, typically they say it's a goal of 10 features per PI, but give or take, some organizations, as we know, they may do a little less or a little more. Last but not least, that RTE, we coach leaders, teams, the Scrum Masters in lean agile practices and mindsets. So not only is it a mindset, but it's a culture to have a lean agile practice and strategy. Just a typical week for me. I usually have my daily stand-up with my boss and the rest of our RTEs on my team. From there, I meet with one of the RTEs that is, his train is right underneath my team. So essentially, I kind of play a solutions train engineer role for that one team and a couple other teams. So I meet with him on a regular basis because his organization was just acquired from my organization. So like I said, just trying to get them in alignment. and with our training. I meet with my Agile coach, and that's usually once a week, just to make sure that things from leadership are being communicated down to the team. And my Agile coach was the original facilitator for PI planning, so my Agile coach is helping me pretty much get prepared for September's PI. We also have 2 intake meetings. These meetings we go through each of our we call them MSPIs, but essentially these are epics to see what's ready to be worked on, or or what's no go. It's usually a go no go process. And last but not least, I have a scrum of scrums with all of my Scrum Masters, just to see if there are any impediments, any type of bottlenecks or roadblocks that I can remove on the team to team level. So those are the majority of the meetings I have on a weekly basis, but of course there are other meetings that occur on a one-off basis. All right, well, I love this slide right here. This pretty much gives you the difference between an RTE and a Scrum Master. Prior to being an RTE, I was a Scrum Master. So if you look on the right-hand side, Scrum Masters, they conduct all the sprint ceremonies, from your sprint planning, your daily stand-up, your sprint review / demo, your retrospective, and your refinement. While the RTE, they don't really go to, if they wanted to, they could pop in a meeting here and there, but for the most part, they're worried about the Scrum of Scrums, PO Sync, and here and there they may go to like a sprint review or something to that nature. Scrum Master on the right, they pay attention to their assigned team. So if you're on the financial reporting team, or as Coach Femi always talks about with WhatsApp, if you're on the imaging team on WhatsApp or whatever have you, you're just on that one team. While if you're the RT on the left-hand side, you look at the entire project on the macro lens. So you're looking at all the teams on this actual train. So whether it's the financial reporting team, the imaging team, the risk analysis team, all these teams that's all in an alignment in one train together. You look at all of their analytics and making sure that predictability is there. On the right-hand side, usually for the Scrum Master, the RTE is their supervisor or Agile coach, while the RTE, their supervisor is usually like the Agile coach as well, or the director of IT. Last but not least, the Scrum Master, they remove impediments and roadblocks, while the RTE, they more so look at things from the team level. So remove dependencies from team to team, or unclog any bottlenecks that may mess up the team. And if we look at on the pictorials on the bottom, the Scrum Master, they usually are in a trifecta type of relationship with the product owner and the development teams, while the RTE, they usually in a type of three-way relationship with the system architect / engineer and the product manager. Okay, and this is a great picture right here that I found from the Safe Scaled Agile website. It pretty much similar to the 3 pillars for Scrum: inspection, adaption, and transparency. These are the 4 pillars for the House of Lean. And the goal is for sustainable, short lead time, best quality, and value to people and society. And this promotes high morale, safety, and customer delight. And if we read these 3 pillars, respect for people and culture, that's very important, because you're dealing with all types of people from offshore, onshore, so on and so forth, making sure that flow happens. So it's always continuous and sustainable. Innovation occurs. So making sure you're not doing the same thing all the time, and you're doing something different. And last but not least, relentless improvement. With all 4 of these pillars, on top of that foundation, these are the goals for the scaled agile framework. So that's pretty much it. Thank you so much. Please let me know if you have any questions, but that was just a quick overview of a RTE and how it compares to a Scrum Master for my Scrum Masters out there, or the people that are trying to become Scrum Masters and they want to know what's the next step from there. So, and I feel like I'm kind of like midway through my career, so it's always room to advance with this industry. So just very happy to be in Agile Scrum. All right. So I do see we have a couple of questions. Coach Rumi, how do you want to do this? Did you want to do raised hands or the questions in the chat first?
So it's up to you. It's your show. How you want to run it it's okay by me.
Okay. All right. So I'll answer the quick question that's in the chat first. How is a random day like for you as an RTE? As I showed on the PowerPoint presentation, a day for me, like I said, randomly is a quick daily stand up in the morning that we talk about, and we use and how my team is organized. We use a Kanban board to talk about like the most important things that we're working on, and we just move them through a Kanban board. But we have that daily stand up. We talk about that, any updates that's happening with any of our projects. From there, meetings with leadership as a whole, whether it's my boss or my boss's boss, just to understand how we're going to get ready for the next PI planning, because who I'm working for, I'm working with a really large bank. We're managing over $200 million a year. So it's very important for us to plan in advance. And to be honest, out of all of we don't do 10 features. We do about 110 to about 100 to 110 features are pretty much accepted during PI planning, but maybe around like 70 to 80 of them get completed during our PI. So very interesting. It's a very fast-paced organization, and we have a large team. So that's a day in the life. All right, let's go through the raised hands. We have please so Leek.
Great presentation, great. Really appreciate that. But I just have a question regarding the differences between the Scrum Master and the RTE. The last part where the RTE removes dependencies and unclogs bottlenecks, and on the Scrum Master side, removes impediments and roadblocks. So with my understanding of Scrum Master, I believe Scrum Masters also, if not more or the same, also removes impediments and manage dependencies. So is there a reason why, there are, difference, or are you talking about the RTE does that on a higher level than the Scrum Master does, or they're just like, it's just specifically made for the RTE to remove dependencies and unclog bottlenecks?
It's a great question. The thing about it is, it's a continuous learning type of job. So the Scrum Master learns from the RTE and vice versa at all times. The RTE always keeps their ears and eyes open. And even during the PI, if it wasn't for the Scrum Masters, the RTE wouldn't be able to do their job. So anytime that there is some type of impediment, and if the Scrum Master cannot remove it themselves, that's when they go to the RTE, and the RTE is able to have those meetings with whoever's boss to try to remove whatever that blocker may be. So it's one of those things that the team self-organize, even on the Agile side of things.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. We're gonna go with whoever's next. Gills.
All right, good. I was gonna help you pronounce my name because I'm sure you
I
may
got
not
it.
be able to
I
pronounce
got
it.
it. Gills.
All right, so you did. All right, thank you for the presentation. My question is this: have you had to deal with a stakeholder that's just, always aggressively asking what percentage done? We're not in the green right now. We're close to red, and if we're close to red, if we're not going uh, as planned, if we're not on target, what specifically are we going to do? And are we going to be able to deliver all features? That just wants answers to questions right now. Always that energy. How do you do that? Have you had to deal with such a stakeholder? And what did you do?
Okay, great question. Fortunately, as a RTE, I have not yet, but I've dealt with that as a Scrum Master. The team falls behind. It's rough, but you win as a team, you lose as a team. With that being said, I think if you're ever in that situation, Gills, you have to protect the team, and you also need to make sure that the team is transparent with one another. If they feel like when are you, if you don't mind me asking, Gills, are you a Scrum Master right now?
Yes, I'm a Scrum Master right now.
Okay, perfect. So if there's some developer, if there's some developers that are always promising to finish this user story, and after 2 or 3 sprints, they keep on rolling over, you really got to ask them, are we going to finish this or no? Is this a priority or no? So with that being said, you really have to gauge the team. And like I said, it's all about continuous improvement. So if you don't get it the first time, second time, the team may be immature and you may have to push back to try to make sure that they're trying to reach that sprint goal by the end of the sprint.
Oh well, the situation is that this same stakeholder is the one that will go back road and ask developers for to work on production issues ad hoc out of the backlog, off track. And then she's the same person that is going to come and just quickly do this. And I've coached the team. Anytime she tells you quickly do anything, refer her to the PMs. Let the PM manage the backlog through the POs. It will trickle down to you from the backlog and put back anything that we have to replace with. Swap. We need to do the story swaps. So if she's asking you to quickly do something, that time she'll tell you it's just 2 hours. And then 2 days they're still fighting with it. And then she's still the same person that will come and ask about how are we doing. And so coaching such a person that doesn't want to pull status from Jira Align or Jira, doesn't want to use the tool, still wants waterfall reports,
Mhm.
and she just doesn't want to hear anything about tool. Go pull your reports from the tools. Everything is there. So how did so it's just the same conversations over and over again. How do you deal with such people? Because what I'm doing right now is just avoiding.
Well, that,
I just avoid.
that's
So
definitely,
how do you? I I can't run away for too long. So what do I do?
yeah, that's a good one. Like I said, I think it's all about you really have to continue to try to coach the right way. Maybe if there are some, yeah, it's rough. And I'm a picture type person. Do you share any type of pictorials or any type of videos with her as opposed to always just like texting? I mean, like some type of message. Do you actually try to share like videos or like anything to that nature, or like pictures of, hey, as a product owner, whatever have you, this is how we need to get our stories in, and always try to let her know that, hey, as a one-time courtesy, this is what we can do. But if the developers always keep accepting this, these adjustments, these audibles in the middle of a sprint, then your system is very broken, unfortunately. So you gotta try to nip that in the bud and control the, not really control the team, facilitate the team. That's really important right now.
Yeah, it's easier for me to communicate with the team, and the POs are, doing well. So, of course, there was also another situation with testers. There's someone coming to, I just saw an email talking about resource allocation. How can you call the people resource? Resource allocation, and people have been assigned to stories. Testers have been assigned to stories now. So my PO was able to write like a 3-paragraph letter to that person that things don't work like that. We don't do stuff like that anymore because they're going through an agile transformation, right? And so we were able to, deal with that quickly, and things improve immediately. So I'm just trying to see if I can get additional information to be able to also deal with this person as well, such that it's mild, but good in such a way that it sticks, and we're able to also deal with that situation as well.
Bukola, I have a question for you.
All right.
Do you have any data that shows, do you guys use the burn down charts?
Burn down, yes, we do.
That's one. You know that for every new story that comes in, you know how your burn down goes.
Yes.
That's one evidence. Another evidence is what was planned, what was achieved.
Yes.
Yes, in as much as we say that it's transparent, there's a tool, not everybody's going to go check those tools. So this is where you come in as a Scrum Master. She's difficult. Show her the data. Pull the data out. Put it together. Tell her that for every time we bring in work, this is what happens. We're unable to finish what we started. The team will struggle. And sometimes because they do context switching, they might not be able to finish the one that was planned and also the new one that was brought in. Don't put together one data. Put together a couple of data for different sprints. Because your data tells a story.
I've given information on, I've done that analysis for like 5 sprints and put everything beside each other in a spreadsheet. All the details, all the indicators,
Did you present it?
the asterisk.
Did you present it or you just emailed it to her?
I didn't present to her. I passed it through the PMs because she doesn't, she has an idea of the report she wants to see.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what she always talks about.
Okay.
So we actually did that meeting yesterday, and she said all the things that she has seen, all the reports we sent,
mm-hmm.
and she still has this report that she wants to see. It's like waterfall. Okay, I said let me see the report.
Mm-hmm.
She said okay, she will get somebody and somebody. Okay, so we're waiting for that report now.
So you know what I
to
think?
See what information she needs.
You know what I think? I think she shares the reports with maybe higher leadership. So she needs you guys to do those reports for her. That's what I believe.
Well, we're still waiting for her to see what information she's actually looking for.
Okay. And then
so when she does come with it, I'll let you see it.
Okay. Remember that you guys are still going through transformation. Of course, there'll be some people that won't buy into Agile. It will take them a while to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But always remember one thing. In as much as we're change agents, we need our jobs.
Yes.
We need our jobs. So push as much as you can. As long as you're not alone. As long as you have support.
Yes,
your Agile coach, carry your Agile coach along or carry your manager along with how things are going.
Yes.
And if there's someone that can talk to that lady, that will be a plus too as well. If your Agile coaches can have conversation with her on that level, maybe that would also help. But carry your Agile coach along and see. Okay. You guys are just changing. Don't, as much as we push, let's remember that we still need our jobs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Coach, for me.
Thank you.
That is great. Right.
Ajo Ma,
Mhm. Ijoma.
is your ma? It's on you. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, Chi, it's on you.
Yeah, great presentation. Thank you very much. So I know Scrum Master has daily stand-ups with the dev team. So you made mention of having daily stand-ups too. So how are your team members? Who do you have daily stand-ups with?
Yeah, so my team's a little unique. I have so my boss, he's like he's like an agile coach slash like the lead of the whole agile transformation at the large bank I'm at. So he has us have a daily stand up with all the other Scrum Masters, and I mean my apologies, a daily stand up with all the other RTEs. That's part of our group, part of our our solution train, and yeah, so we just pretty much report out what's going on with our projects and mainly like yeah, that's it. So it's us and like the head of finance. The head of finance pretty much makes sure allocation of all projects are being approved for funding. So it's about like 5 or 6 of us on a call, and it's usually Tuesday through Thursday. So we have it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Just a 15-minute call, and any of the projects that we're working on, we use a Kanban board to pretty much manage our projects that we're working on. So it's unique. As we know, every organization does agile differently, but so that's how my organization is working our transformation, and we're kind of doing a transformation as well. It's been about 2 years since they've been working through through agile from no longer waterfall. So, all right.
Okay. So is this organizational, like by default? I just wanted to know who are your team members? What members do you have meetings with on a daily? So like their roles, so we actually know. Then I know organizations actually can do it based on how they're structured, right? But on the default, who are the team members that are supposed to attend that daily stand-up? I just want to know.
Yeah, so the members of the daily stand-up is myself, is 4 other RTEs. It's our it's my boss, as I mentioned. He's like the agile coach slash like the main agile transformation person, and our finance person. So 6 people total. So
Okay, so like 4 RTEs, one
correct.
agile coach, and then one head of finance, right?
Correct.
So who facilitates the meeting? Who is in charge of the?
So the person who's our boss, he has one of our RTEs as like pretty much a head facilitator. She is kind of like his assistant slash like so she plays the role of like an RTE slash assistant, and she's the one that facilitates that meeting. Like I said, every organization is very unique.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Last but not least, as if she's not there, as we know that we're self-organizing, so anybody can facilitate the meeting if she's not there. All right, Mercy.
Thank you very much, Briggs, for a great presentation. You mentioned that you have been an RT for a couple of months.
Yes,
so my
ma'am.
question is, how long were you a Scrum Master, and what are some of the challenges, if you may, that you experienced transitioning from being a Scrum Master to an RTE?
Okay, great question. Started off as a BA. I was a Scrum Master for a few years. And so then essentially I did the RTE class. I was one of the first cohorts of the RTE class. with Coach Fumi. I got my RTE around March, April. At the time, it was a very interesting time in my life because it was after my last Scrum Master project. So I was off that project and I was like 2 to 3 weeks, I didn't have a job. But if it wasn't for taking that RTE and just constantly interviewing, I got this role 3 weeks after I lost that position. So
Wow.
yeah, definitely. So like I said, it was around April. I got this RTE role and I've been moving with it since. Your second question you asked was what?
Well, what are some of the challenges you have experienced transitioning from being a Scrum Master to RTE?
To be honest, I'm not even gonna hold you. It's it's easier to me. I'm more of a macro thinker. I like to think on like a larger view. I was a little bit by myself. I was an econ major undergrad, so I like to look on a macro lens on things. So and on top of that, it's refreshing to come to an organization that it's a lot of people that's in this organization. Like we have a lot of people trying to help out. It's many of meetings. It's a very lax atmosphere, relaxing and not too much pressure. My boss, ever since I've been there for 2 months, my boss has been on a week vacation at least 3 times already. You know, we were supposed to have a one-on-one, like maybe, you know, once a month, you know, 2 times a month. We probably had like one-on-one this whole time because he's always, you know, just enjoying the work-life balance. So I say all that to say it's not that bad. If you've ever done PI, or if you're kind of like, you know, take that RTE class, you know, you kind of do a simulation PI. And usually it's supposed to be a 2-day event, but as I mentioned, every organization is different. Our next PI, which is in September, it's supposed to be a 4-day event. So very interesting that they're revving it up. They're saying, hey, instead of 2 full days, we're doing 2 half days because leadership has other priorities as well that week. So like I said, it's been cool. The main thing you got to worry about is PI planning. That's number one. Just like as a Scrum Master, your number one goal is to assist the team, however that may look. Right now, you're just assisting a whole, you know, a larger team as opposed to just, you know, a team of 10 people. So that's the main difference.
Thank you very much. I have to say your boss must have a lot of confidence in you to be taking off like that. That was
yes, amen.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Abdul, I got you. I know you asked for the PowerPoint presentation, but if you have a question, please, you have the floor.
All right, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. I only have like 2 questions, but I mean, they're both the same. So when do you start your PI planning? When do you start your, you know, PI planning? When do you start planning it, your PI? Then my second question is gonna be, what are the things that you have in your list that, okay, before, you know, I could successfully plan this PI, then I have to check all these boxes? That's my question. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. We start planning for PI right after the next PI. Like, prime example, I'm looking at my whiteboard right now. 4th quarter PI, September. Q1 PI, quarter 1 PI is, you know, 2nd week of January. Q2 PI is March. So we're already planning at least 3 PIs in advance. But we started working on Q4 PI, which is the next one coming up immediately after the last PI, which was like a month and some change ago. So it's you're really just right back on it. And some things like a checklist on how we're preparing for PI. In September, we have a meeting on the weekly basis with our Agile coach, as I mentioned. Agile coach, gentleman by the name of Jay, he was the one that facilitated the last PI. So right now what we did was we created a Confluence page, and we're kind of like having time slots created for, you know, so we can have our, they call it delivery leads, but you know, our delivery leads to come in and populate which time slots they want to be in for the 4-day PI. We just created a PI task team. So we're about to start meeting once a week just to get other things together. But as I mentioned, this is my first PI I'm working on myself to facilitate. It looks like I'll be a co-facilitator. But like I said, this is my first time doing it myself. So as the checklist expands, I'll be sure to share some new feedback with you. But right now, it's really just planning, getting our Confluence page together, getting Zoom links into the Confluence page. It's just preparing the virtual meetings for that day. That's really the main things we're doing, making sure like I said, we call them MSPIs, but the deliverables are populated and making sure that there's a good conversation through each one. But so that's the main things we're doing initially right now.
Okay, great. So Ijoma has a question for you on the chat. His network is bad, but he put it on the chat.
Okay. All right. Sorry, okay. Question is, what is the best way to put it for the RT? Remove dependencies or manage dependencies? I thought manage is more appropriate. I guess it just all depends. Every organization is different. I would say, you know, based upon my teaching, if one team is dependent on another team, then and if you can kind of separate those teams and let them kind of, you know, work their own at the beat of their own drum while they're still on the same train, then sure. But some dependencies, they'll be you know, managed through 2-3 different teams and they'll be there forever. That dependency there'll never be no type of solution to that dependency. So like I said, ultimately, it just all depends on what's happening. Each project is different and unique. But if you have an example from your project, when you manage dependencies, just let us know. But in my opinion, I think removing is number one, managing is number two. All right. All right, no more, I see no more hands, but let's go to the chat. Okay. All right, I want to come in. All right. Thanks so much, Brown. Thanks, Brown. All right. And that's amazing. I believe Coach Femi, Coach Fumi mentioned the sample checklist. If I can, because I was just on that website myself, I can try to put together, I can send you, put the checklist in the chat myself as well, if I can find it. But yes, it's so many. I'll just actually put this whole link in. It's a link to what a RTE does, and it kind of speaks to it on another level. Everyone in meeting. Okay. Anybody wants to check out that hyperlink, that's straight to the Scaled Agile Framework website. All right. Any last minute questions?
All right, thank you, Brits. You're still not off the hook yet, though. Thank you for an amazing presentation, and thank you for taking time out to put that together and help the team. However, there are a few people taking interviews here. So if you do have questions, let's talk about it. What are the things that you need help with? I know there are a few people here who are new and still haven't taken the SAFE certification. We already have a class planned for August 13th and 14th. We're going to be talking more about the Scaled Agile Framework. So that will give you like a clearer picture of what Britt talked about and what the full role of an RTE is in a scaled environment. So don't be worried, don't be scared. We're going to talk about it in full. You'll have a better understanding. However, if you do have questions, are you interviewing? Do you need any clarity on any question? For those who interviewed this week, what were the questions that were asked? Who wants to share? Let's support someone else. You got the floor. Brits is still your facilitator for today anyway. So over to you, Brits.
Davies.
Yeah, thank you. I guess this question is just an open question. You could also try to answer it, or Fumi could also try. The question is, can you throw more light on IP iteration and what is done in the last 2 sprints of a PI by a Scrum Master or RTE, whichever?
Okay. You said you want to know more about IP iteration?
Yeah, and what is done in the last 2 sprints of a PI?
Yeah, so IP iteration, it usually happens the first sprint of the PI. If I'm, like I said, I'm still going through my first whole cycle, but correct me if I'm wrong, Coach Fumi, it's
Last sprint.
last sprint. Okay, thank
Last
you.
sprint of the quarter.
Thank you so much, Mama. Yes, last sprint. And yeah, essentially, it's where you can take the floor, Mama T. I apologize. You stole my thunder, please. You got
You
it.
don't plan any work that time.
No, so the IP innovation and planning sprint is the last sprint of the quarter. Some organizations actually practice SAFe. They have 5 sprints, and the 6th one is the IP sprint. But some organizations say they practice SAFe, but they have 6 full sprints, and they have the IP sprint, and they're not supposed to plan any work for the IP sprint. That is when you're actually doing PI readiness. Although you've started doing it from when the previous previous PI planning ended, and you went into the quarter, as Britt said. But those 2 weeks going into PI planning is when you get heavily involved, reviewing the epics, the features, the stories, and meeting with the Scrum teams and ensuring as Scrum Masters and the PI core team, and having meetings on ending with them, of course, with product management and everyone that's involved, the core team, the PI core team. So no work is planned during that time. Some organizations use that time to do, what is it called? Coach, help me. Trickle down effect, where they do, where they go out and just, I forgot the word for it, but they just go out and create stuff.
It's
The hackathon. Yes, thank you.
Hackathon
is when
innovation.
Exactly. And then they can work on their technical debts during that time and review the backlog, review the defects and all that, but they don't necessarily have to have work. They have a hackathon. They may have a hackathon, not all organizations do, where the developers are, okay, this is the downtime for us. Let's brainstorm and create stuff. They create products, and some products have become valuable to the organization where they come back and present it and they actually buy into it. But some of them are just created for fun. That's what happens. In my former organization, the IP sprint was used for Agile. They called it Agile Fun Days, and it was used for coaching. The Agile coaches would create classes and training sessions during that time. But in my current organization, it's PI readiness, heavy planning during IP sprint.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mama T and Brits. However, David, I shared a link for the IP for SAFe. We got to do a lot of studying to ourselves. And on the WhatsApp chat, I just sent a calendar, an example of a calendar from the Scaled Agile website too, that talks about a few things that you can do during that period. Different organizations work in different ways. Like Mama T just explained, her previous one, they did more Agile, but this current one, they're doing more planning. So different people can do different things. However, no team should be working at this time. So even if you're interviewing, you got to talk to them about it to say, during the IP iteration, no team is doing any work. In some organizations, they might have a few cleanups that they need to do. They might do them there, but technically, you shouldn't. It should be a time where the team is actually relaxing their brain from doing work to actually planning for the next iteration and also gaining more knowledge. That's why they do the hackathon. People come with their skills to say, hey, we could do this way, we could do this. It's a learning period for them, but not actually doing any coding work. Because most of the time, the team is just coding and coding and coding. There's no break in between. So they're not learning new things. They're not learning new skills. But when you have like the hackathon, a period for them to just come together and say, what can we do better? They can learn from others during that period too as well, and also plan for the next PI. So a screenshot has been sent to the group, and the safe link has also been sent here. So you can actually just go through it. Hackathon is HAKTHON. It's hackathon, yeah. I actually have an intern that's working with us currently, and he's never been on a team, but he's only done the hackathon. So they're like, they bring interns, some schools have them. They just bring their brains together and say, what can you guys create? And that's how you catch them young. Developers from school, they start to create things that no one even expect that they can do. So that way, organizations can also learn and allow these developers create mind-changing things that they can use for the next IP.
Okay, thank you for that.